Okay, so in this video we are going to do adding and subtracting of real numbers. So real numbers include positive numbers, negative numbers, whole numbers. They can be integers, fractions, decimals, pretty much everything you can think of. The only thing that we're not including is imaginary numbers. And so in the real world, we're not going to be dealing with imaginary numbers, which is the square root of -1. So let's just start off with some examples. If you had, let's say, -4 plus 7, what would that be equal to? So the way I've typically taught this to my students, especially my younger students, is I would use a Superman example. So I would say, let's say Superman, let's say this is, actually let me draw a straight line. Let's say Superman, he can actually go underground. So he can actually, use his superpowers, and he can go, let's say, 4 kilometers underground. So this would be, let's say, -4 kilometers underground. Only Superman can do that. And then that's what this -4 would represent. And then he could actually go in the positive direction, 7. And so from here, he would go up 7. So this entire distance from here to here is 7. This whole distance. And then when he does that, where does he end up? Well, he's floating in the sky, because only Superman can do that. And then where is his location? Well, he's obviously in the positive distance, because the ground is at 0. And we'll say this is 0 kilometers. And so right now, where would he be? Well, you look at this and you say, oh, well, that's -4, or this is 4, absolute value distance of 4. I'm going to take that away from 7, and that's going to leave us at 3. So this distance would be 3. So what we're actually doing is, this is the same thing as just 7 minus 4, and that's equal to 3. So easy enough. So let's do another example here. Let's clear this page. Okay, so let's say we had -3.5 minus 5, and we want to know what this is equal to. So same thing, we can just create another Superman example, and we can say, well, Superman is 3.5 meters, or whatever the case, 3.5 yards underground. So here's Superman, and this distance here is -3.5 from here to here. And this is 0. We'll say this is 0, I don't remember what I said, 0 meters, I guess. So it's -3.5 minus 5, so now he's going to be going in the positive or negative direction. Well, it's minus, so he's going to be going further down. And again, only Superman can go, go up or down. So he's going to go an additional -5. And so now he's sitting down here. So where is he currently located at? Well, he's all the way down here. He's even more negative. So we know the answer is definitely going to be negative, but what are we doing with the absolute value of these two numbers, the -3.5 and the 5? We're actually adding them together. So we have 3.5 plus 5.0, and we add that together and you get 8.5. But Superman is in the negative place, because this is up in the sky and this is underground, and again, only Superman can do that. So the answer is -8.5. So this is -8.5. Okay, let's do another example. Okay, so let's say we have 5.6 and minus 9.2. So same thing, we can just draw another Superman example, and this time where is Superman starting? So let's say he's starting up here on a platform, and he's 5.6 meters up in the sky. And he doesn't even need to be on a platform because he's Superman, but let's just say he's just standing up here on a platform. And where does he go next? Is he going to be going up or down? Well, the negative sign tells us he's going down. So he's from this point, he's going down 9.2. And we know he's going to end up underground because 9.2, or the absolute value of negative 9.2, is greater than 5.6. So this whole distance from here to here, 9.2, is from here all the way here. That's this whole distance. And he's going negative. He's going in this negative direction, 9.2. And so where does he end up? He ends up down here. So where is he currently located? Well, what are you going to do with these two numbers? You're actually going to subtract the absolute value of negative 9.2. So you'll have 9.2 minus 5.6. So what do? We borrow from this 9. This becomes a 12. And so we have 6, and then that's negative 3.6, or it's 3.6, but we know Superman's down here negative, so the answer is, it is indeed negative 3.6, so this is equal to negative 3.6. Okay, and I'll do, I guess I'll do one more example, and this time we'll do maybe something with fractions. So let's do 4 and 3/4, and we're going to add negative 3 and 3/4. So what is this equal to? So again, same kind of thing. We just go back to our Superman example. And whenever you're not sure, you just go to the Superman example, and that'll always kind of tell you whether you know, you're in the positive or negative place, because that can often get confusing. And just to reiterate, the first value is where Superman starts, and then after that it kind of tells you in what direction he's going. So this is a little different because we have a plus and a minus here. But if you recall, when you have two pluses, and this is when they're factors multiplying each other. In this case, this is technically a positive 1 times the negative 3/4. So positive and positive, this results in a positive value. And when you have a positive and negative, this results in a negative value. And when you have negative and positive, that results in a negative. And when you have a negative and a negative, that results in a positive. So when the signs are the same, you get positive. So in this case, the positive and the negative, they both result in a positive. And then when you have the signs different, then you end up with a negative. So in this case, you have a positive and a negative, so this ends up being negative. So these two signs right here end up being negative. So really, this ends up being 4 and 3/4 minus 3 and 3/4. So when we do that, well, that's kind of obvious. You just 4 and 3/4 minus 3 and 3/4. That's just 1. But visually, let's just take a look at what that would be. So again, Superman is going to start up here. Let's say he's really high up and he's on a mountain or something. And this is 4 and 3/4 miles up here. And then now he's going to go down from here 3 and 3/4. So he's going down a distance of negative 3 and 3/4. So we're just subtracting those two values, and then where does he end up? He ends up right here, and then this height that he ends up above the ground is 1, because 4 and 3/4 minus 3 and 3/4 is equal to 1. Okay, maybe we'll do one more example because that was a little bit too easy. Okay, so let's do let me think of something. Let's do negative 2/5 plus 6. So in this case, same thing again. It's Superman is starting at negative 2/5 underground, so we can say he's negative 2/5 miles underground. So he would be under here, let's say, shot down with his superpowers, and he went negative 2/5 underground, negative 2/5. So that's where he's currently starting. And is he going to be going up or down? Well, that's positive, so he's going to be going up. So he's going to be from this point, he's going to be going up positive 6. So now we already know the answer is going to be positive. It's going to be somewhere up here because Superman's going to end up here. And the answer is just however far this distance is. So what are we doing with these two numbers? We're just subtracting them. So this is really just the same thing as 6 minus 2/5. And this is really 0, and you could say this is 0 and 2/5. So we did this subtraction problem. We could just borrow from here, change that to a 5, and we could have 5/5 here. 5/5 minus 2/5 is 3/5. And so that's 5 and 3/5. So this distance here would be positive 5 and 3/5 above ground, and that's where Superman is located.